Welcome back in. It is the Vampire Fantasy Forum once again. It has been quite a bit since we've gone live. I do apologize with holiday schedule and then being ill, as you can probably still hear it from my voice. I am recovering from illness. It is that time of year, but we march on. We persevere on, and just like we are with this show, hopefully you are with your fantasy football teams heading into week 14. For some, this may be the first week of playoffs for you if you have fantasy football playoffs that start this week. For others, this is the last week. This is it. Some of you, it's win and you're in. You get to the playoffs. You get to shoot for your shot at a title this year, your team versus the rest of your league. For others, maybe you're already in. You're trying to get that one seed, maybe get a higher seed, get a better spot in the playoffs. Or for those of you, if you are joining us and you are at the playoffs, well, I do thank you for that. Hopefully there's some entertainment to be had and still value to be seen with this show. Again, as I said, this is the week 14, week 14 prep show. And as we prepare for this, remember there are some teams on bye this week. So if you have some of these teams, players rostered, you should be aware of this, but you already are. Those teams are the Falcons, Bears, Packers, Colts, Saints, and Commanders. So for those that may have Tyler Algier, Cordell Patterson, Marcus Mariota, Kyle Pitts, if you're still using him, Justin Fields, David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Christian Watson, Alan Lazard, potentially still Aaron Rodgers if you're still using him, Aaron Jones, if I didn't already say that, AJ Dillon, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, Matt Ryan, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, maybe Taylor Heineke or Logan Thomas, or maybe a few others if you're in a much deeper league. So be prepared. You should have a backup plan already set for them. So I apologize every once in a while. I may cough. I will try to keep that to a minimum this week for you folks. But again, once again, I appreciate you joining us here. Go ahead, like and subscribe our YouTube page. Also find our podcast here on Spotify as we put our shows out there on Spotify for you as well. As I said, with week 14, there's still a lot of football, NFL football left to go. Playoffs are weeks and weeks away. We still have a whole month of December, rest of December, and into potentially January for games. But for you and your fantasy season, it is do or die time now. It is the time for the playoff push. So let's get prepared. We're going to start with the Vikings and the Lions game. This game actually is favoring Detroit by 2.5 points. The over-under is set at 53.5. So, again, as we have done all year, you don't need me to tell you this is a good game to start Kirk Cousins. You're, of course, starting Dalvin Cook, and you're going to start Justin Jefferson. But as we have been seeing the past few weeks, and as Jared Goff actually pulled up or showed us last week, he is usable. And he is not just if the situation's right. Well, even if that were the case, the situation's right, stream, use Jared Goff. He should be utilized all this week. Also, you're going to use DeAndre Swift. His usage is going up. Jamal Williams is going to get those goal line works, so that is going to split the workload between Swift and Williams. That kind of cannibalizes each other. You're going to look at its RB2 value for both. Swift's going to get more of the potential usage. Williams gets that goal line usage, so that's very usable both ways. You are still not going to use Jameson Williams. You have to see it. He was active last week. He played a little bit. Wasn't really there. You got to see it first, though. But you're still holding on. The guy I like here, because Minnesota's beatable down on the sidelines. They're beatable down there. I like DJ Chark this game. He's one of my wide receiver streamers that you can use as a wide receiver 3. You saw it last week. He had 5 for 98, almost broke that 100-yard mark. While Amon-Ra St. Brown just went bananas and scored twice. So he's efficient with targets. He's getting the targets. He's got that trust back. This Lions offense is a lot better at home. They are playing for a playoff spot still. They're not out of it. As long as they're playing for a playoff spot, they believe they can get in. They're going to search for this. They're going to go for it. So on this game, this is a good game to play. If you need a streamer, like I said, DJ Chark, really good wide receiver streamer. I actually like him over some guys that are on other teams that you may say, well, he's not projected as well. I like the upside. It's ceiling play. So especially if you're a team that you need help, you need a guy that gives you that ceiling, gives you a boost, DJ Chark's your guy. And of course, you're still, like I said, starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's go to the next. There's another fun game. And honestly, this one, I'll kind of point out some of the players I may not use versus like guys like DJ Chark, if you need a streamer, if you need an upside play. Chiefs and Broncos. And with the Vikings-Lions game too, there's a lot of divisional games. As we've said all year long, with divisional games, pandemonium ensues. So what's supposed to happen, so Vikings being 10-2, they should win, right? Well, pandemonium ensues. We don't know if that's going to happen. Divisional opponents play each other tougher because they play each other more. They know what the other team's going to do. So just because what's supposed to happen is said what should happen, don't take that into account. That being said, Chiefs, Broncos. Now, the Broncos last week somehow lost to Tyler Huntley and the Ravens when Lamar Jackson went down. They only put up 9 points. This game is a 43.5 point over-under. Kansas City is a 9.5 point favorite. The reason this game is a 43.5 point over-under, the Broncos are inept at offense. And I honestly, for a lot of times, fantasy football game managers, fantasy football analysts, they look at game script and what should happen. Well, if Team A, in this case, Chiefs get up big, Broncos have to come back. So that means Russell Wilson should have a good game. His wide receivers have a good game. Kansas City is whatever against the pass, right? That's the typical analysis that is done. That is all very true. But let's look at, now we have 13 weeks of data on the Broncos. They're very bad at offense. They have a hard time moving the ball. Honestly, Jerry Jeudy comes back. I don't feel confident starting any Broncos skill players. I don't feel confident starting the running back. Yes, I understand Samaje Perine was RB3 last week and tore them up, but we're not going based on what happened last week because that's not this week. I don't feel confident starting Latavius Murray. I understand if you have him, you may need to, but it's not a confident play. There are other players I would rather play. If I have James Cook, I think that's a better play. If I have Zonovan Knight with the Jets, that's a better play. If I have Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon sits again, I'm playing Samaje Perine over Latavius Murray with the Broncos. There are guys I would rather play than Latavius Murray. It doesn't matter that he gets the workload. Same with quarterback. I don't feel confident starting Russell Wilson, even in 2 QB leagues. I don't feel confident starting Courtland Sutton. I don't feel confident starting Jerry Jeudy. Why? Well, it's a low passing offense. It's a low scoring offense. It's not very efficient. That does not equal success. That does not equal fantasy football points. If you need to, I get it. But even if they're projected as, well, they should get 13 points, how? I'm actually serious on that. Ask yourself how. I would actually start DJ Chark over Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I'll say it right there. I'll put it out there right here. DJ Chark will have a better week this week than either Courtland Sutton and or Jerry Jeudy if Jeudy plays. So I understand if you have to start him, if you have really no other options, but I think there are some streaming options that you can go look at, dive a little deeper, get a better game environment, get a better team environment on this one, right? Yes, the Broncos have a good defense, but Kansas City has already shown that just because you have a good defense doesn't mean it's going to stop them. I understand they struggled last week, but again, this is not last week. This is this week. On Kansas City's side, right, you are obviously starting Mahomes. You're starting Kelsey. I would actually still start Isaiah Pacheco. I feel more confident in Pacheco against a better defense than it would against about Latavius Murray, and that offense against a worse defense. Denver is not the cream of the crop against running backs, right? They are above average against running backs. So I'm not going to sit here and say that they are, going to give up a lot, but they give up over 100 yards on the ground on average, and they give up over 30 yards passing to running backs, which means I do like Pacheco that he has solidified this backfield. We're not buying into the revenge game narrative. That's a fun storyline, but that's not what we're buying into as far as, well, it's Melvin Gordon. They're going to activate him. He's still behind the depth chart of McKinnon and, honestly, Ronald Jones for that matter. I said it before. Melvin Gordon was brought in as a pure depth play only. So I like Pacheco. If Smith-Schuster's playing, he's probably going to be a lot healthier. You'll like Smith-Schuster as a possession wide receiver. MVS probably has a little bit lower floor here because Denver probably has better options of playing too high. And, unless they play man more often, then that's where MVS is going to get his, right? But if it's possession receivers, I like Smith-Schuster. I like Justin Watson. And Justin Watson's honestly a flyer at that point. But then I also do like, those pass catchers for Kansas City. So it kind of consolidates a little bit. We're still waiting here if Tony is in or out. He's probably out again. And Hardman's still on IR. So that does hurt them. But don't expect the same Kansas City team you saw last week come out this week. See a different one. Next is Jets and Bills. Now, last time these teams faced, remember what happened last time divisional teams faced. And again, divisional game, pandemonium is going to ensue. Doesn't mean it's going to be what happens this game. The Jets won last time that these two teams faced. They are looking to keep on Buffalo right there. They're currently the 7 seed. They're looking to keep that or get ahead there. So Buffalo's a 9.5-point favorite. This game's over under 44. You're obviously on the Bill side. You're going to start Allen, even though it's a tougher matchup. You still start your studs. Allen and Diggs, you still start. You can take a flyer on Gabe Davis, but understand he has a scary floor of 2 catches for 20 yards. He also has a ceiling of, he could get you 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. You're going to take that risk. On tight end, because tight end is very ugly if you don't have Travis Kelce. Yes, you can stream Knox, and that's fine. Where I like as far as a uptick running back that should have been all over the waiver wire 2 weeks ago, but especially this week, hopefully you wouldn't pick him up if he was available. James Cook. He has been getting more and more reps. It's been a split backfield with him and Devin Singletary as of late. On the Jets side, this is not a Bills defense that is scary as far as it's unbeatable, right? Yes, they're good defense. They're not great defense, though. Mike White, for him to have the best value, the Bills have to go up early to create passing situations for the Jets. The Jets have playmakers. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. I forget. Oh, man. Corey Davis. Oh, my gosh. I can't believe I was blanking on that. They have playmakers. Tyler Conklin as a tight end. They have the playmakers at wide receiver to have that environment if they need it. Garrett Wilson has been showing why he is who he is, why we thought he was coming out of the draft. He is coming down where this is a good game, good spot for him. I would actually play him and play him confidently in this game, more confidently than somebody like Sutton or Judy. As far as the pass catchers, though, I'm only starting Wilson with confidence. I'll start Mike White, especially in 2 QB leagues. This is a potentially good spot for them to start Mike White. I'm also going to start Zonovan Knight because much like Denver, who isn't a scary matchup against running backs, Buffalo is also not a scary matchup against running backs. Zombie he gets, if he's able to go, let's say Michael Carter is out a little bit longer with his ankle roll. Zombie give him enough carries, he might break some away. This is a good spot for him. A lot of divisional games this week. Next is another divisional game. Browns and Bengals. We just saw the Bengals beat Kansas City last week, and they are coming off a big win. And since he has a 6-point favorite, this is a 47 over-under game. You're obviously on the Cincinnati side. You're starting Burrow, Chase, Higgins. Hayden Hurst looks doubtful, so I'm probably staying away from the tight end situation unless we hear otherwise. If Mixon's there, you're going to play him. Otherwise, you're playing Perine. If Mixon's available, I'm probably staying away from Perine just because you really have to. It's pretty straightforward on the Bengals side. On the Browns side, last week I think what we saw more was rust. And that can be corrected as time goes on. Remember, Deshaun Watson was not practicing with the team. He was not with the team because during his suspension. So this is 2+ years of not playing football and then going out, and now there's football. And we saw rust. I think we saw rust. That will eventually wear off, I believe. If you don't believe that, you are staying away from the Browns situation as a whole. The situation just got worse because we saw what the floor was last week against Houston. It was not an offensive game. It was a defensive game that won them that game. This is not a good thing if that's something that continues. I'm willing to go back to that if I have options at quarterback, because if you held Deshaun Watson so long or you went and picked him up, you have another option at quarterback that you can still wait and see potentially. Otherwise, if you don't, I think if Ryan Tannehill's out there, I know Tyler Huntley is the streamer du jour because of Lamar Jackson's situation. I think Tannehill against the Jaguars is a better stream option. That is my personal opinion, and I will get to some of those things why I said that later when we cover those games. But I would say if you want to wait and see, go find an option. Still stash Deshaun Watson. You're going to start Nick Chubb, and potentially in a pinch or as a flex play, you could start Kareem Hunt. His numbers have been going down, but you can still start him. Of course, you're still starting Amari Cooper. I think this is a spot he can excel. Unfortunately for Cincinnati, their top level guys, as far as cornerbacks go, have been injured. So those are matchups I think he can exploit. And you can still stream down Peoples-Jones. He was more efficient with his targets last week than Amari Cooper was. So he is still showing that efficiency week by week with his targets. It's going to get better. So you can still stream and start Donovan Peoples-Jones. Next is a battle for Texas. It's the Texans and Cowboys. Not really much of a battle here. The Dallas Cowboys are favored by 17, and it's a 45-point over-under. Similar to like the Chiefs and Broncos. Except Cowboys, obviously, which should be favored a lot better. It's one of the better teams in the NFC versus probably the worst team in the NFL. So take it like it is. On the Texans side, there's only two players I actually want to talk about. Dameon Pierce, if you started him, if you're using him, if you have another option, if you're on the fence about Pierce or another guy, I'd probably lean that other guy. I'd probably sit Pearson this week. And that's actually coming from somebody who does roster Pierce in some leagues, where I would choose to sit. Dallas is a very good running against the running back team. They are top, according to my numbers, they're top 5 in that category. They don't give up a lot of points to the running back position. And because Houston's offense does not intimidate people, that means more stack box opportunities, which I get. Dameon Pierce is a very good runner. I'm not trying to discredit that at all. But it's it's not a good situation this week. I don't see it being a good situation for him this week. The streamer wide receiver that I could see potentially going there, if you need, and he's going to do it by target volume percentage. So you can get target volume or you can get a target volume percentage. He's going to have a high volume percentage. What I mean by that is this is an offense that's slower. And this is an offense that doesn't go fast. It has a low volume of play each week. But the percentages of targets in that offense, if you think of a pie, that percentage of the pie for this wide receiver is high. If Brandon Cooks is out, I really like Nico Collins. I get he's probably going to be shadowed by Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs still allows a high passer rating when targeted. He has gotten better, but he still allows a high passer rating. So Nico Collins gets targeted a lot, has a high target percentage. He could get you there with a high target percentage in this game, especially if the Cowboys get it big. Houston's forced to throw more. That's also the case against Dameon Pierce. If the Cowboys get it big, they have the need to throw more. That relegates his workload because he is a rusher, not a pass-catching back. That's Rex Burkhead and others out of that backfield. On the Cowboys side, you don't need me to tell you to start Prescott, Zeke, or Pollard. Honestly, Pollard is the preferable guy in the backfield, if you ask me. You don't need me to tell you to start Schultz, Lamb, or Gallup. It's a pretty consolidated target share in that offense. Next game up, Jaguars and Titans. This game is a 41.5 over-under. The Titans are a 3.5-point favorite. On Tennessee's side, I already spoke to it. I think Ryan Tannehill is a really good streaming option this week, especially if you have a quarterback that either is on bye, because there are a few of them that are on bye, or it's facing a matchup where it's like, I really don't like that game. And this one actually could be a better one. The Jaguars are a very favorable matchup against quarterbacks. If Treylon Burks goes, especially, that I like Ryan Tannehill a lot better. Otherwise, I mean, you still have guys like Chigga, who's a good tight end streamer this week. I like him better than Austin Hooper on the Titans. He's been coming on as of late. But I also then, I mean, you can take a chance on Bobby Trees, Robert Woods, if you want. But otherwise, you're taking a shot on pass catchers. It's really consolidated for me. It's Chigga, it's Treylon Burks if he goes, and other than that, I'm trying to stay away from the pass catchers, but I still like Ryan Tannehill. And of course, you're still starting Derrick Henry. On the Jaguar side, this is a decent spot for Lawrence. Yes, Tennessee has a good pass rush, and they have a good run defense, so that does lower Travis Etienne's value a little bit. Etienne also does catch the ball out of the backfield. So especially PPR leagues, you still start your studs. Tough matchup, still start your studs. Start Christian Kirk. You could even go back to stream Zay Jones. He still gets the targets. It hurt you last week. He did not repeat what he did. So again, with these wide receiver 3 streamers, flex plays, you're going to start him after the boom week because you think, hey, it's going to happen again. You're chasing. Quit chasing. This is why you have to go back and you have to look at what is causing those booms to know when it's going to happen. Is it the team they're playing? Is it because he is getting targets? Did he not go boom, but he still had the ancillary statistical pieces that said he could have, and it was still the right play? Zay Jones is that type of guy. He has as many targets, if not more, than Christian Kirk this year. You can start Kirk too. Tennessee's a funnel defense to the pass catchers. So Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk. I'm still saying I would start Travis Etienne, but just be ready for a little tougher game. He's possibly used more as a pass catcher this game. But I'm still also starting Trevor Lawrence too. Don't just say, I'm not starting Trevor Lawrence. Another divisional game. So many divisional games this week. I love it. It's fantastic. Eagles, Giants. Giants are getting exposed. 7-2, now 7-4, 1. Okay, they're getting exposed. Eagles, This is where we're seeing guys still out. Still start Hurts. I would say you start Miles Sanders here. This is a spot that the Giants aren't a particularly tough matchup. It's similar like Buffalo, Denver, where you can start running backs against them and feel fairly at ease about what you could get out of your running backs. Where the difference is, similar like Kansas City with Pacheco, is Sanders with the Eagles, where the Eagles like to pass, they like to throw the ball. They're not necessarily running the ball all that often. So still start Sanders, but just know, yeah, there's a ceiling there. But if you had Sanders all year, you already know that. For the pass catchers, yes, it's of course AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. They have been getting their target shares risen ever since Goddard went out. The guy that you can still stream, this guy, is Quez Watkins. He is a burner field stretcher that his target shares increased with the absence of Goddard. He is the guy that's benefiting from Goddard being out. This is still a week you can play. If you need a streamer, I like taking the chance on a guy like Quez Watkins with the Eagles because it's a good offense. It's a good game environment. It's efficient. He actually has better upside than guys like Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, where it's not a good offense. And even if the game environment's right, they haven't done it. And how many weeks are we going to wait for them to do it and still not get it done? So I like streaming a guy like Quez Watkins over other non-safe pieces just because it is a good environment. He's getting the target shares. He has the athleticism. And it's a good team environment, good game environment. On the Giants side, Darius Slayton, excuse me. He is really the only pass catcher that I would look at. Everybody else, you're just guessing at this point in time. Saquon Barkley, as you're still starting, it's a tough environment again, but Philadelphia is not as stingy against the run as some of these other teams. So you still start Barkley. He is that talent. If you need a streaming quarterback, especially for 2 QB leagues, Daniel Jones is okay. Philadelphia is one of the better teams against quarterbacks, though. So just remember that. And Daniel Bellinger could be considered a streamer tight end just because that position's so bad. So there's that then. Next divisional game we have up, Ravens and Steelers. So this is where, first off, Pitt is a 2.5-point favorite, and the line is set at 37. Very low point total. But I actually agree with Vegas on this one. Pittsburgh should be favored in this game. What you're going to tell me is that, well, Tyler Huntley last year, when he was in, he averaged 16 points per game in fantasy last year, correct? That is a correct stat, right? Part of that, though, is due to in one game, he had 35 points. That was against Green Bay. He had 35 points in one game last year out of the ones he played. He had a minus 0.12 points production per dropback. It was negative as a whole. So if you want to sit here and tell me points per game when he was in, he had 16.6 points per game. Great. Did you know Lamar Jackson has had 16 point around that same number since week 3 per game average this year in fantasy? That's been since week 3. Don't tell me that it's going to be a smooth ride. So that's where I like guys like Ryan Tannehill a little bit better. I'm sitting everybody else except Mark Andrews in this game, though. Steelers actually have a better defense than what we've seen with the addition of TJ Watt. On Pittsburgh side, I like streaming Kenny Pickett. You play George Pickens, and you play Deontay Johnson. You play Pat Freiermuth, too. He has actually gotten a lot more reps. He's a better streamer with the absence of Chase Claypool. And Najee Harris is solidifying himself again in this backfield as the guy that you want to start. So if you have him, if you've held him, this is the guy that is solidifying himself. Jaylen Warren, I understand, looks better, but he's not taking that role over. Harris hasn't given that role up, so don't give up on that. Next is 49ers and Bucks, and looks like it will be Brock Purdy at quarterback for the Niners. Kind of lowers the value of everybody for the Niners, but they have a good defense. You're still starting CMC. I would still start Ayuk. I'd still start Samuel and George Kittle. But again, the value of everybody lowers a little bit. And just like with Jimmy Garoppolo, you never know who's going to get the consolidation of points. You have to start the guys knowing that they could get it or they could not. That's the risk you take with the Niners on offense. For the Bucs side, yeah, you can start Tom Brady, but again, it's not pretty. On the running back side, we saw it on the game Monday night. Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White, they kind of cannibalize each other. It's 50-50. And honestly, if I have to choose somebody, I'd rather start White over Fournette. I think he's the better running back. Fournette, unlike Najee Harris, has not taken over this backfield again. He got hurt, but he's not been able to re-solidify himself as the lead back in this backfield. I like Rachaad White better than Fournette. But you're also then still streaming Cade Otton, start Mike Evans, start Chris Godwin. There you go, plain and simple. Panthers, Seahawks. We'll see if the Panthers defense slows down the Seahawks. Geno Smith has been a very good quarterback. You can still stream him, you can still start him, but it is a tough spot again this week. Start Metcalf, start Lockett. If Kenneth Walker is actually down still with his ankle injury at the time of recording this, it's early for me. I don't know, so you better pay attention to that. I prefer streaming DJ Dallas as a runner versus any of the other guys in Seattle. On the Panthers side, I'm probably only starting DJ Moore or Terrace Marshall as a streaming option for a week. I've given you 3 or 4 wide receiver streaming options this week, so go out and pick one up if you have a need somewhere. I also don't mind Chuba Hubbard here. Seattle's a really bad run defense, so I prefer Hubbard versus Foreman on this one. Dolphins and Chargers. Again, on the Dolphins side, on the backfield, you're going to take your pick. Is it Wilson? Is it Mostert? You got to just take your pick. If you have either one of them, you're hoping for that workload to go to the guy that you roster. It's a risk. So you just got to take your choice. Starting Tua, he was exposed last week against a good defense, but the Chargers are not a good defense. But we'll see. Yes, you're starting Hill. If Waddle is healthy, you're going to start Waddle. If not, Trent Sherfield is the guy I would stream out of the Dolphins, out of the Miami game. On the Chargers side, Justin Herbert is fine to still start, but just remember, while his offensive line is banged up, he is going to be under pressure a lot. The Dolphins give up big plays, though, so just remember that. Still start Keenan Allen. If Mike Williams is out still, I would start Josh Palmer, but don't be surprised when DeAndre Carter is the one that's getting the workload, not Joshua Palmer, just because that's going to be how it works. And then, of course, Eckler actually has boosted value, especially if the line is still down, because he's going to be the guy getting dump-offs. Last game of the week, Patriots and Cardinals. And on the Patriots side, you don't necessarily like starting Mac Jones, but I get it if you need to. You're going to start Ramondre Stevenson. Jacoby Myers is really the only pass catcher as far as wide receiver goes that I like. But you could stream, because you can stream tight ends against Cardinals. I would stream Hunter Henry. On the Cardinals side, here's the guys. We saw it last week. Kyler Murray, yes, of course you're still playing him. Now the Patriots are a very good defense, so hopefully the Cardinals have prepared for them. I'm going to start James Conner, but it's a hard team, but we've seen teams run on the Patriots before, and then we saw it. It's Marquise Brown. It's DeAndre Hopkins. Those are your target leaders. Last game. When they were both healthy, it was those two, and that was it. So you're going to start both of them. And I would say start both of them with confidence. Those are both good wide receivers. Marquise Brown gets a lot underneath. He gets a lot after the catch. But he also can stretch the field. So you're going to start both of them. But anyway, that's going to do it for this week. Gave you guys a lot of streamers, gave you guys a lot of good options here. Go out. Hopefully you win this week and are winning your fantasy football championships or in the playoffs to win your championships. But be ready for week 14 and start of playoffs. But let's go have a good week this week.